50 times. Welcome to Torah Anytime, Parashat Vayigash. Yosef is asking in this parasha, we have the drama, the melodrama, the tremendous telenovela, the whole brothers are meeting together and it's coming into to head to head. That's the peak of the drama. And something weird happens. Yosef comes and he's asking, listen guys, take everybody out. And he started to cry. And the question is asked, what caused him to cry? Until now he was fine. He went to the side, he was okay, held himself together. All of a sudden he's crying. What caused him to cry? What caused him to cry are the words of Yehuda. And Yehuda says the words of his father, Vayomer avdecha avi eleinu, your servant, our father, said to you, Atem yeda'atem, eleinu, to us, Atem yeda'atem, you knew, Ki shnayim yaleda li ishti, I had 2 boys for my wife. And you see how he's doing that. He says, Ishti, in other words, he almost like kind of disregards the other brothers, but he considered her to be the prime wife. V'yatza echad meiti, and one disappeared. Va'omar ach tarov torav, he was eating alive. Ve'lo re'iti vadena, and I didn't see him until now. Those words penetrate so deep into Yosef that all his being came to a screeching halt. He understands that regardless of his great and wondrous ability to interpret dreams, to plan, to control a big country, he made one crucial mistake. He made a mistake with reality. He was completely off in understanding reality. He thought all the time that his father gave up on him. He thought that maybe he's like Ishmael and Esav. He's going to be the one. After all, there's a certain pattern in the family. He's going to be the one in which is not going to be included in this thing that we call Knesset Israel, the body of Israel. He says, I'm probably one of those. He thought maybe because his father yelled at him or confronted him about his dreams, maybe his father really gave up on him. After all, he did not hear that there was any rescue mission, no Navy SEALs were sent to look for him. They gave up on me. And all of a sudden he realizes that he was wrong. He understands that all this time that he was in Egypt, he lived in the world of theories. In theories that he created in his own mind. And there was nothing real about them. As a matter of fact, it could not be more removed from the truth. And he starts crying. And it's very bad for him. And then when Yosef realizes that the brothers reached the end of their ability of the brothers to take what was going on there, he immediately says, take everybody away from me. Take everybody out. I'm going to see exactly what does it mean. Kol ish ve'iten et kolo bevechi. And he started to cry, ve'iten et kolo bevechi, vayomer Yosef elechav. Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef, ha'od avichai? I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? And the pasuk continues, ve'lo yochlu echav la'anot oto ki nivhalu mipanav. The brothers could not answer him because they were petrified. They were scared. The Midrash tells us that the soul came out of their body. When we were young, it says, never scare a kid. Chas v'shalom, he can hurt his soul. There was, you hide in a corner, you go to a kid, boo, like this, he jumps. Don't do it to a kid. their soul came out from this shock that they had. And it says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Oy lanu miyom adin, Oy lanu miyom hatochecha. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to us in the day of judgment? What's going to happen to us in the day in which we're going to be rebuked by? And Ma'im Yosef she'amar le'echav ani Yosef. What if Yosef, it was only a human being, told his brothers, Ani Yosef, lo yachlu la'anot oto, they could not answer him, le'atid lavo, in the world to come. כשיבוא הקדוש ברוך הוא להתווכח עם כל אחד ואחד ולומר לו מעשיו. When הקדוש ברוך הוא is going to come and he's going to ask you one-on-one on your actions. כעניין שנאמר, because the pasuk says, כי הנה יוצר הרים ובורא רוח ומגיד לאדם משיחו. He who created mountains and created formed mountains and created wind or spirit, he's going to tell a person what he spoke. על אחת כמה וכמה שאין בריאה יכולה לעמוד, even more so that no creature could stand such an event. So we have to be very careful with what we do. And a miracle happened, and the soul of the brothers came back, and they still were petrified from Yosef, and they turned their faces with embarrassment. And Yosef does something, by the way, all through this parasha, there's a ton of examples and a lot of day-to-day examples of how to and not to do things. And especially in the world that we are today of darkness and the end of the world, you'll see what to do. So Yosef comes and he talks to them, he speaks to them softly. He encourages them in order to calm them down. And he brings them closer to him. He says, come closer to me. And he started to speak to them in Lashon HaKodesh. According to the Midrash, he showed them the Brit. And he spoke to him in Hebrew. And they said, okay, still, it was very hard for them to see. It's like a person woke up from the dead. I mean, it's a petrifying event. Our Parashat tells us how to deal, this Parashat, to deal in situations of extreme darkness and confusion. Darkness, not necessarily darkness where there's no light. Internal darkness inside, and darkness in society. And confusion, not only confusion to us, but confusion in society as well. Remember, everything that we said applies both internally and externally. It applies also to a person, to the individual, and on a greater national level, worldly level, and so on. But even more so, ben adam lechavero, between a man to his fellow human being. The problem is, as time progresses, we forget how to interact with people. We forget to interact, what it is to appreciate people, how to deal with people. And it doesn't make a difference whether it's your friend, your customer, your wife, your children, and guess what? Yourself as well. Yourself. We forget how to behave to ourselves. And it's scary. Don't think that if you act to your friends in one way, if you have abilities, or lack of ability, should I say, to communicate with people, you would not have a problem to communicate with yourself, which you have to. I'm not saying you should start talking to yourself, but you should be aware of what you want, what your needs, and be aware of those things. You don't communicate with yourself. So there's no different. It's a pattern. If you do it here, it will happen in any other place that you would be in as well. And next week, on Sunday, it's going to be Asara B'Tevet. Asara B'Tevet is when the siege on Jerusalem had started. And that siege caused, of course, the event of breaking the walls and the destruction of the temple, and to this great exile in which we are in for the past almost 2,000 years. And Today also, we see the same events that led to that catastrophe again today. And that's called sinat chinam. Hatred for no reason. As simple as that. And there's lack of kavod, respect. There's lack of unity. Lack of appreciation for the other human being that is right next to you. The question is asked, how do we overcome this? How do we overcome this? Everybody can tell you it's bad, we have this, and so on and so forth. But has anybody ever offered you an answer? Or tried to offer you? Because if you're going to tell me, well, we should all sit down and learn Torah, and it's going to be all okay. Guess what? It is not going to happen. It's not going to be all okay. Something else has to take place. And it's not begidder kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah, that the more scholars it is, that tension between scholars is going to increase wisdom. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about disregard to the other human being in front of you. So he could be a great Talmid Chacham, a great rabbi, and you could be a great rabbi, and you're going to have absolutely disrespect to the other person just because you never dealt with the problem. So how do you solve this? Very simple. It all depends on your ability to dismantle your own self, to disregard yourself, to fix the ga'ava, arrogance. We are very arrogant. Along the line, we forget really how fragile we are. We're arrogant. We think we are invulnerable. We're expendable. We are like Stallone and Schwarzenegger put in one body together. We are Superman. By the way, maybe this is the obsession of our society with superheroes. I mean, come on, what's wrong with you guys? Everybody likes to see himself. Everybody has this identity of a superhero he identifies with. Well, I like Batman. I like Superman. I like Iron Man. I like Iceman. I don't know what. I don't identify with this. It's very foreign to me. I mean, how could I? It's cartoons, for crying out loud. How could I? I would like to look at people who achieved, that did something with themselves, not at some figure. I don't live in La La Land. We have to get out of this format of self-presence and self-substance. And on the surface, that tikkun, that fix-up looks very clear and very simple. Is to take the will, or and to accept myself, to change, and to take the ability, or to accept the ability to change in order to apply ve'afta l'reacha kamocha. In other words, dismantling of egoism. You can't be it. Instead of being selfish, you become selfless. But this formula, which is very easy, takes self and ish and self and less. It's very similar, very simple. In reality, it's very difficult to get. You have to understand that if you'll be able to do that, not only you'll be able to increase the love among the Jews, you'll be able to fix the world. Tikkun ha'olam, fixing of the world, winning good over evil, depends with our ability to do that. That's why it's also so difficult. So let's take a little bit of a mystical, Kabbalistic turn on this parasha, and we know that that meeting between Yosef and his brothers reaches its peak at the moment. That's the peak, that's the climax that everything comes up to in the revelation when Yosef reveals himself to the brothers. And then later on the connection between them. And it's important to understand that it is not only a connection on a humanistic level, in terms of human, like person to person, but rather it is it is a connection of brothers that were separated for such a long time in such horrible events. But even more than that, it is a connection, a unification of superior spiritual value to it. There are 12 different combination of Shem Hashem, the Yud Ke Vav Ke. 12, like the number of the tribes. The brothers are the chariot, the vehicle of those 12 names, of 12 combinations of the name of the Yud Ke Vav Ke. Every shevet, every tribe is another facet, reveals another facet of that quality of that Shem Hashem that Yud Ke Vav Ke that comes to place on the character of the shevet and so on and so forth. During all this time of separation and fighting between the brothers, that separation between Yosef and his brothers, that unification was not complete. But now, as a preparation for Am Yisrael coming down to Mitzrayim, in order for them to have the ability to tolerate and to overcome this hard galut, this hard exile in which they're going to go in, they would not have a chance to make it unless they would be spiritually united. The reason why Am Yisrael survived this 2,000 years of galut is because we united ourselves around the Torah. Those who broke away from that core of Torah are not among us today here. They are gone. Simple as that. So, in order to do it, you have to increase the power of Kedusha and to connect together, to put together that code of the 12 tzirufim of the Shem Hashem. That's why Yosef said in this place, Hotziu kol ish me'alai. Remove any body from here. In other words, at this moment of unification, I don't want anyone else in this room. It has to be pure. All the brothers coming together alone, with nobody around them, alone. The word ish, as we learned this morning, also refers to, sometimes to angels. Yosef didn't want angels there. Only us. The milah ish also comes from the Hebrew word of yeshut. Yeshut is existence. Yeshut is substance. Yeshut means to the physical form and to the physical versus spiritual, this chomri, materialistic part of us. In other words, you got to remove this. It's a remez that here right now has to be a yichud elyon, a superior spiritual unification without any materialistic substance to it. In other words, you have to remove yourself out of that. And then the Torah says right after that, Velo amad ish ito b'hidvada Yosef el echav. And when Yosef united with his brothers, there was no one there, no one was allowed to be in this room, to show us that they reached the level in which they had to be. There is a unity of brothers come together. And in this unification, there was not even a smidgen of selfishness into that. They became a body, one body, Am Yisrael. And there are other explanations why Yosef did this whole thing to them, why he didn't reveal. It was to bring them down to this point, so they'll be able to unite together. This great separation was actually like a magnet that put them later on together. Otherwise, they would never be able to do so. It's just another path for you to think about, but that's what it is. Now, the brothers were able on their behalf to do so. Only because even a person like Yehuda, that was intended to be the one in which kings will come out from, was willing to humiliate himself and to become a slave to the ruler of Egypt, so the family pact would not break. He dismantled himself. Say, I don't care about myself. This is not going to happen here anymore. We're all going to be united. I don't mind suffering for everybody else, but you let them go. And you want to talk something, he said to yourself, and that's why he says to him, Vayigash elav Yehuda v'yomar bi Adoni. Listen, Mr. Second to Paro, you got something to say, you can talk to me now. Just leave them out of this. You talk to me. It's between me and you. Exactly what's your problem? That's exactly how Yehuda is talking to him. Very harshly. But they needed to come to that. And then we know that the divine light cannot dwell among us only when there is the Yesurim, the suffering, a little bit of suffering that we get into us, in order to, and those suffering comes in order to put aside that self glorifying image that we have of ourselves. Excuse me. When we realize that we're not as strong as we are. One of the ways to do, though, by the way, is by fasting. In Yom Kippurim, you stand, what is Yom Kippurim? It's only 25 hours that you don't eat and you don't drink. You're already all of a sudden feeling like a wet rug. You're half a man. 2 seconds ago you were big. What happened to you now? When you have this inside of you, then you can only pray from the bottom of your heart. That's what we say also on a regular day. You can't pray and after you eat. You have to pray, then you eat. Because when you're praying on a full stomach, things don't look so bad. You're full of yourself. And when you're full of yourself, there's no room for God in you. You have to make room for it. And further on that is you have to be really, when a person is angry at you, you have to be a little bit of humbling yourself. And especially if you humble yourself in front of a person who is lower than you, it is a tremendous way of humbling yourself. Yehuda is doing that and is humbling himself. It helps you to be humble. It helps you break down that trap of materialistic trap that we fall into. So sometimes you need to apologize. And you could even apologize to your kids. You could apologize to your workers, and so on and so forth. That will not make you less of a man to do so. How would you teach your son that he needs to apologize if he never seen you apologizing? I didn't say apologetic. Apologizing. Apologizing is, I realize I made a mistake, I'm wrong. That's what a real man does. And he goes, like this. And in our Parashat, it is revealed that Yichud Hashem, sanctification of Hashem's name, is a great vehicle for connection. And Bala Ma'or V'Shemesh says, Vayigash elav Yehuda. When Yehuda went upon him, Yehuda saw that he needs to make himself closer to this person. He said, oh, they're a big problem. So therefore he had to do those yichudim that he did, so they will cause closeness to them. And by different unification of Shem Hashem, you'll come up to a matter of, by putting those numbers together, you come up for a totally different idea of what it is, how the meaning is. And that's, for example, it goes like this. They knew that the name that helps putting people together is the name of Hashem that is spelled Aleph, Hey, Vav, and Hey. This is the name that goes to the Sphira, to the attribute of Da'at, knowledge. Da'at also Ladat also refers to chibur, connection. Ve'adam yada et chava. He, quote unquote, knew her. That knowing means connection. And it says, therefore, Yehuda was mechaven to this name. And by doing so, he connected himself to Yosef. The same thing, in a way, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, Bo el Paro, come into Paro. And we'll talk about it, Be'ezrat Hashem. Come into Paro, be him. Think as he thinks. Try to go so-called under the skin. Try to see what's going on there. So he came to him and knew that that's what he's going to do. By doing so, he connected. And this is the remez in the word Vayigash elav Yehuda. Right? In the beginning of this word, Vav, Aleph, and Yud, right? The gematria of that is 17. The numerical value is 17, Yud Zayin, which is the same numerical value of the name that we spelled before, which is Aleph, Hey, Vav, Hey. Because the Yud is 2 Heys. Another remez to that, another hint for that, is the name Hey, Aleph, Hey, Vav, Hey, in what we call small gematria. There is a regular gematria and small gematria. We're not getting into that now. Is Yud plus Zayin. Yud plus Zayin is 17. And 17, if you take 1 and 7, equals 8. That numerical value of the name Havaya, of the Yud Ke Vav Ke, is 26 also. 2 plus 6 equals 8. It's the same thing. So, says the Ma'or Vashemesh, it is therefore, it is something to remember, שאי אפשר לבוא לאדם בבחינת הדעת, לקשר ולחבר. You cannot come to this quality of da'at to connect and unify any kind of holy unification unless you're going to lower yourself first of all. Humble yourself. When you have a problem with your wife, humble yourself. You have a problem that you want to solve. Humble yourself. Lower yourself. Make some room for the other to come into you, into your life. Otherwise, when everybody's big, everybody's got a big ego, there's no room here. We can't connect. Therefore, when Yehuda lowered himself, Yosef came closer to him to b'bchinat da'at, and therefore Yehuda and Yosef came about together. That's why we say Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, both of them together. And this would apply also to the essence of tshuva. When you want to sanctify yourself and come closer to Hashem, you have to say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Chatati, aviti, pashati. Humbling myself. You make room, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would find a way to connect yourself together. Because if not, you'll come back to what we spoke in the beginning. Many times, we ourselves, like yourself, we build theories and assumptions that are completely wrong. And they don't fit reality. And many times, Rabotai, many times, it will cause us to carry over a mistake for years. For years. We would live with this idea. Many explanations I will give to this actions that I did. Why did he do this to me like that? Why did she say this? If he didn't do this, and all kind of things that you're going to your head. You're having like a whole dialogue, an imaginary dialogue with the person, or analysis of the situation. If I did this, he will do this, and because he will do that, I will do something else. And because I will do something else, he will do something else. And the whole scenario is going on there. It's a whole long series of events that are happening there. It actually never happened. You acted upon it, and guess what? All of a sudden, you have a problem. It didn't really happen. You just failed to communicate. You failed to accept the person the way it is. You created a false reality. It doesn't make a difference how well this false reality is, it's still a false reality. Reality is completely different. And you're going to act different than reality, and it's going to be so far removed from reality, this imaginary world that you created, as east is further from the west. Completely different. Many times, let reality surprise you. Don't judge a person before you allow him to introduce himself. Right away, we label people. Right away, we turn to interpret reality and go on and blame, and we're blaming without even asking the question, excuse me, what exactly happened? What do you feel about me? We assume this, and then it's a catastrophe, Rabotai. It's a catastrophe. That's why we have failures when it comes to relationships, and this is maybe the biggest problem of our generations. We don't know how to have relationship with people. We have failures when it came to interpersonality relationship. And on top of that, so let's say we did this. And now there is, to the end, Yosef is coming to teach the brothers a very big lesson. And he says to them, Al tirgizu baderech. Don't get angry in the way. And I'm saying specifically in the way, not on the way. Baderech, inside the way. Why? He says, Al tichasu, don't get angry one on the other. They're going to go now back home, say, you see, because of you. If it wasn't because of you, this situation would not have happened. And the other the person is going to say, no, it's not because of me, it's because of you and him. And it's going to be a terrible thing. Yosef is trying to teach them and us a tremendous lesson. He says, whatever happened, happened. There is nothing you could do to change whatever happened. You can look backwards. You should learn. Said, okay, it happened. It happened for a reason. What do I learn from it? Put it in your cachet, put it in the back, and then look forward and move on with your life. And the reason is very simple. If you don't leave the past, and you always leave and analyze the past, you would not have any room for the present to concentrate on what is important now, not what you didn't do or what had happened. That is over already. Where are we now, and where are we going with this? And he's telling them, listen, we have a job to do. We are going now to Galut. Am Yisrael is going to go to years of slavery, harsh slavery. We have to do this now to take care of our family. There's famine in the world. We have to take care of our family. We have to take care of its future, and we have to take care of the unification of the family. And as such, let's leave the past behind. Why again? If you live in the past, you don't have a present, and without a doubt, you would never have a future. So learn to let go. Learn to forget. Learn to forgive. Make the room into yourself. Humble yourself. And all of a sudden, guess what? Things are not that bad. So Yehi Ratzon, I wish that all of us will become selfless and will be a unifying factor in the world. We make the world into a better place, and Be'ezrat Hashem, because of that, Mashiach will come. Amen. Yehi Ratzon.